don't say. Born to play. Every day don't say. Hello.
Good evening, and welcome to another edition of Focus On. My name is Lou Goldstein, and I'm welcoming you again. Tonight on our show, we have Adam Perle, who is the president and CEO of ArtPride New Jersey Foundation. And Adam has been around for a long time, making a big difference in a lot of people's lives, and we're very happy to have him on the show. So Adam, thank you very much. I know you got a very busy schedule, but thank you for coming in.
Well, I appreciate you having me back, Lou.
That's great. So just a little bit about Adam before we get started. As president and CEO, Adam manages all ArtPride operations while leading the professional staff and volunteer board of trustees. During his time at ArtPride, Adam has overseen a historic increase in funding to the arts and cultural organizations through state budget appropriations, the financial stabilization of the organization, an expansion of organizational membership, the continuous securing of federal funding for the arts, and numerous other successful programs. And he's juggled keeping arts, basically keeping the ArtPride New Jersey, going strong during the pandemic, which has been no easy task. Prior to him coming on to ArtPride, he was the vice president of the Princeton Regional Chamber of Commerce, and he was a very key part of the leadership team that tripled the size of the organization and continued to grow in the years after. He's worked on various community and state and local and nonprofit arenas, and he's done a wonderful job. And if you know his love of the Giants, New York Giants, regardless of how well or bad they're doing, you'll know Adam's there, and he's always encouraging his two daughters, Alexis and Marley, and his wife, Mandy's a big supporter, and he's a lifelong resident in Bridgewater. So he's a New Jersey guy who's done a lot of great things in the art world, and we're going to talk a lot about what ArtPride is doing and how the arts have fared during the pandemic. So, Adam, let's start with the basics. Let's talk about art. Why is art so important to the daily life of those of us in New Jersey?
Lou, I think that's it. As New Jerseyans, we're really lucky. I mean, art is all around us. It's in our towns, it's in our communities, it's in our schools, and our hospitals. It's really hard to go through your life as a daily New Jerseyan and not encounter art, and we're really lucky in that way. So there's a quality of life aspect, absolutely, that art brings, whether it's public art and you're out and about, or whether you're choosing to go to a performance, or whether your child is learning the recorder in third grade or immersing themselves in a vocational program at one of the high schools. All of that's important, and there is that intrinsic value of it, but art also has economic impact. It's what drives people to downtowns. It's what helps drive businesses beyond the nonprofit theaters and museums and galleries to the for-profit industry. And it's crucial, as I mentioned, in education, where it's proven that students who involve themselves in art perform better, stay in school longer, have critical skills that really make them the leaders of the next generation.
Right.
And we see it in healthcare too, right? You see arts in our hospitals, where people who have serious neurological disorders past the point where they can no longer speak are still able to execute and perform and create art. And you see it in therapy too, in art, that art can really help, particularly in certain areas of therapy, to bring people back from various traumas. It's really there. It's in every part of what we do. And like I said, not to minimize that economic impact of the arts, that how much it drives, how much it is really a vital industry. It's not really an add-on. It's an important part of what makes New Jersey, New Jersey.
Well, it is, and you see it all around the state. But maybe we can just go back in time a little bit and talk about what the economic impact of arts and culture was in New Jersey before we started going through the pandemic in about March of 2020. What was the picture like before the pandemic?
Absolutely. So arts were certainly thriving in the state of New Jersey, and they certainly have taken a hit during the pandemic. But I'm a very optimistic guy, and I think that there is still a strong future for the arts going forward. When we look back pre-pandemic, and we sort of look at the arts as the nonprofit arts industry, so that might be your McCarter Theaters, your New Jersey PACs, your Symphony and Seas, your West Windsor Arts Councils, as well as the for-profit industry. So those are the for-profit venues. I know I'm going to the Stone Pony on this Saturday night, but those are also the film and TV industry, graphic design, architecture. Those are our creative industries. So when you think about just the nonprofit industry, you were talking about pre-pandemic, $660 million economic impact, 22,000 jobs. When you talk about the nonprofit, the full creative for-profit industry, all of that combined, think about film and TV, all the concerts,
Right.
everything,
Festivals,
$23 billion a year, and over 80,000 jobs. So a really significant amount of economic impact that's happening. And you know it's not just the ticket you buy. You buy the ticket, you go to dinner beforehand, you go to a drink afterwards, you pay for parking. All of those purchases have local, county, state, taxes depending on what they were. That's how the economic impact of the arts really helps out New Jersey.
Right, because whenever there's an event, say in any town or any city, it's about the shoes on the street,
Absolutely.
right? Going to, as you said, dinner, before the event or afterwards, or just buying things, so it brings revenue to the town.
Absolutely,
And that's
absolutely.
why it's important to support it. But the real question is, now that we're in the pandemic, we have a picture of what it was like before. But the question I think a lot of people would want to know is how hard, were the arts hit? How hard were the arts and cultural industry hit, during the last, I guess 18 months so far now?
It's been devastating. I mean, there's no way to go around it. The arts and cultural industry was one of the first industries to shut down. Right. It continues to be one of the last to open. Many places are still reopening right now, or are planning to reopen depending on when their seasons are. So they may have passed an opportunity this year to have a season, and they're planning for 2022. So that could be potentially 2+ years without performances. And these are organizations, whether they're nonprofit, for-profit, many of them which depend on people attending, and paying to attend, whether that's attending a performance or going to an exhibit or participating in education classes, whatever the case might be, youth education, adult education. So most of what we've been able to encompass in our research is that lost revenue for the creative industries in the state of New Jersey was over $40 billion.
$40 billion?
$40 billion in lost revenue, and over 72,000 jobs lost. I mean, truly, truly significant. You had really organizations that had to cut their staff down by 93, 95%.
Right.
And so it was really devastating. And the organizations themselves have been as innovative as possible, but it has been difficult for sure.
So a lot of those jobs, you see those jobs coming back at all?
We do. We are.
Yeah.
We're seeing lots of places hire. So if you're one of these people who is making a life change,
Right.
based off of the pandemic, which I know a lot of folks are, and you're looking for a place in the arts industry in the state of New Jersey, there are a lot of good jobs out there right now. I think of too many that will take up of our time. But we're seeing people build back, and what we're seeing are the organizations were innovative during the pandemic. They were community members. You saw even right at the beginning of the pandemic, you saw costume shops making masks when there was a mask shortage. But I think a lot of us are familiar with places going virtual and then, outdoor during the summer, and places are starting to reopen indoor safely, and many of them have been open for over a year. There's a mix, right? And that's what we're finding in the pandemic. There's a mix of comfort for what folks are. But we are seeing the arts come back, and I think there is a good future ahead.
Well, it's nice that you mentioned innovation, because as we saw, a lot of the restaurants went to having the tents outside, eating. Whoever was making the tents was making a lot of money,
Yes,
right? Yeah,
right.
But everybody had to keep the businesses floating, especially the mom and pop, businesses. And I'm sure the arts, because most of the arts is indoors, right? It was the big concern that people had. They were afraid really to attend, their various arts, events. And so I know that you talked a little about, the creativity that was needed there. And I'm
Yeah,
sure it went
absolutely.
on.
It was great to see, whether it was, Surflight Theater erecting a huge outdoor stage, or whether it was, 90 Chen Dance Company working with, county officials to find space in the park, or, there's just great opportunities for creative people to be creative, right? So they found a way through many of them. the issue with a lot of that is a lot of the revenue associated with that is not the same as performing in a 1,300 seat theater and selling out 3 shows a year. If you're an entity that does dance or symphony performances across the state. Same thing with a museum or an arts council that might have education classes. You can transfer them to online, but it's not going to bring in the same revenue that someone might be if they were attending in person. So we did see a lot of that innovation. We did see a lot of things go virtual. But there are still a lot of those opportunities. But those organizations are looking to find that way back, the way back to where we were. And many of them are open and have great opportunities. And we're excited about it. I know I've been able to go and attend safely. So.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you about. I know a lot of the organizations that you mentioned, they've undertaken a lot of changes and improvements to make sure patrons feel comfortable, feel safe when they come back. And so I guess the question is, what does that look like when you attend a performance or, an art exhibit or any type of exhibit in person now? I mean, should people feel safe that now it's time to come back and start getting back into the normal swing?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it's absolutely safe. The arts organizations in the state of New Jersey are, by and large, they're following the science, they're following precautions. We've seen actually the New Jersey Theater Alliance and many of the equity theaters around the state of New Jersey agree to a pledge that requires a vaccine, mandate to attend. I know that I've been to a few recent performances indoor, masked, fully vaccinated. I'm having my information checked at the door. This is not, show picture.'re checking my ID with my picture. And then you're going in and you're seeing places that they're doing, whether it's social distancing at lines to grab something, or for the restroom, or whether it's extra cleaning, or whether it's even some of these places have put in new air circulation and cleaning systems. You're seeing all those precautions that you would want and expect as a consumer, and it's there. And then also I would say that it's for each individual, right? What their level of safety is, what makes the most sense for them, for their health. So I think there are still plenty of opportunities, even now as we get into the fall, for things that are going on outdoor. And I think we're going to continue to see that as a trend in years to come, where there will be more and more outdoor opportunities, particularly in those seasons that allow.
Do you think some of the things that we saw during the pandemic will continue, even though we may have like online events, or people may still decide to do online and show something in the theater, et cetera? You think those things will continue?
I think that's a conversation that's happening right now. So I definitely think on the terms of the outdoor events and outdoor performances, I absolutely think that those will continue to happen. I think you'll still see those partnerships between like your local nonprofit organization and the County Parks Commission, and now you're having this performance outside during the summer, more than just maybe the concerts in the park we might have seen in previous years. I think what'll be interesting is whether we might see down the road like different ticket structures, where you might see a performer and there's a certain ticket to attend to see in person and another to attend virtually. We'll see, because that can be expensive for locations. So that might be something that the bigger performing arts centers or the bigger theaters might do to be more inclusive. It'll be interesting to see what comes out of that. But for sure, I think outdoor performance is much like outdoor dining and just sort of building and constructing with outdoor space in mind is here to stay for the next generation.
Okay. So I know we're going through recovery, and reopening is just part of the beginning for many arts organizations. And so maybe we can talk a little bit about what the road ahead looks like in New Jersey for the arts and cultural community, not just today, but over the next few years.
Absolutely. So one of the things that we focus on, and viewers can definitely check out more information about the economic impact of the arts at keepjerseyartsalive.org, is really about, this is a road ahead. So these are, as you mentioned, these are organizations, some of which lost 95% of their staff, and so they're rolling back up. These are places that are instituting capital changes to their spaces, whether it's changes to seating or HVAC, and there's uncertainty, right? So we're all hopeful that things are trending in the right direction, but there continues to be an unknown. And so these are organizations that were very much so operating on that, much like mom and pops, operating on that edge and existing, but that have been hit really hard. And so the road to recovery is going to be long, in addition to which we're sitting here talking about patrons' interest. So patron interest in coming back to the arts is also going to have to grow over time. So a sold-out house now is different than what a sold-out house was a few years ago. So I think if we're doing our job well in the next few months and years, you're going to see a lot of the arts industry talking about the continued support that we're going to need from things like the American Rescue Plan and from the state to be able to ensure that we have those arts and we have that culture that we know and we love in the state of New Jersey.
Okay. Is there any concern that since people have had the opportunity to do virtual attending of arts events, is there any concern from the arts community that people have gotten used to just staying home, being in their pajamas, not having to worry about directions to the theater or to the event itself, and say, you know what, we'll just watch from home, and we won't have that attendance like we did. So we don't want to see events being performed in half-empty places, right? Even though you may be a sellout, right? So is there any concern by the arts organizations that this may be a trend?
Concern, I think absolutely, because we've done the research to be able to, so the industry as a whole, not ArtPride in particular, but the industry as a whole has done quite a lot of research on consumer interest. And the consumer interest is coming back. So there's enough concern from the industry to say we should probably ask about this. And they've been asking about it for about 18 months now, about people's comfort. And so it's been something that's actually been closely researched and closely tracked. And the data tells us that people do want to come back. They want to come back safely. They're eager to come back. There will be a certain subset of the population that won't come back, but for whether it be because of health decisions or for whatever the case might be. But I think we're ready to welcome folks back, and I think as our campaign that we're launching right now about reopening and safe recovery as part of Discover Jersey Arts, we're really focused on people are ready. They're ready to come back. These are the moments we've been waiting for, and if you're vaccinated and you're going to a place that does what it's supposed to be doing in terms of health and safety precautions, you should be able to enjoy that art again, and we're looking forward to welcoming folks back.
Sounds good. Sounds good. I know you we're celebrating a lot this month.
Yes.
A lot of events going on, so I think now's the time maybe to plug some events and talk about the occasions and the celebrations that are going on right now.
Absolutely. So October is always National Arts and Humanities Month. But here in New Jersey, we're very lucky that the governor continues to proclaim October as Discover Jersey Arts Month. So folks should go to jerseyarts.com. I'm not one to pick and choose what you like about the arts. What I like is not necessarily what you like, and there's plenty of diversity and opportunity. So go to jerseyarts.com. We have a fall events guide there. We're going to be rotating events that we're highlighting there. We have podcasts. We have video content. We have a blog there. There's plenty of information for people to learn about what's going on in the arts. You can search for different arts organizations, by your interest. All of that's there on jerseyarts.com. And we're honestly, we're really lucky at the governor's level, at the legislature, our county, our local mayors have, there's a mayor's arts committee that we organize. Really at all levels of government, we truly have support for the arts in the state of New Jersey. And that, to go back to our initial, conversation, our initial discussion was, you can't really go too far in the state without encountering it and being moved by art, and so we're just doing our best to try and put it in one place for the patrons. So I say celebrate Discover Jersey Arts Month by going to jerseyarts.com.
Sounds good. Now I know that you've done an incredible job, and
thanks.
Building up ArtPride New Jersey, and keeping it steady during the pandemic, but also, basically shaping it so that it has, a mission and a vision, going forward. So maybe you could talk a little bit about ArtPride and its mission and the vision as you see it going forward, in the years to come.
Absolutely. So ArtPride New Jersey is the statewide arts advocacy and service organization. So what does that mean? So essentially, every state, every place we go to has different statewide trade associations. Here in New Jersey, we have New Jersey Bankers Association, we have New Jersey Campground Owners Association, et cetera, right? So our members, instead of being banks or campgrounds, are arts organizations. So they are your local arts council, galleries, museums, small theaters, big performing arts centers. And in the past 6 or 7 years, we've expanded beyond just nonprofit arts organizations to for-profit members. So whether it be your Wellmont Theater in Montclair or other types of organizations like that, White Eagle Hall in Jersey City, these are locations that are not 501c3 nonprofits, but are certainly in the arts and entertainment industry, right? And so they are part of ArtPride, and they're part of what we are trying to do, which is to lift all things arts in the state of New Jersey. What we've been talking about, not just that intrinsic quality of life value, but how the arts are involved in economic development, community development, business, healthcare, education, their intersection with tourism and history, and how important that relationship is. And so we've really been building up the organization to try and be more inclusive. We want more people at the table. And we've done in the past, over the pandemic, we were able to secure some of the federal funding that was available, able to maintain our entire staff through the pandemic.
That's great.
And we were able to defer membership fees, the revenue that we receive from our members. We're able to defer that for a few years. So we're able to actually bring in even more folks around our table. And for us, that's really a vision of ArtPride in the future as being a more diverse, more equitable organization where arts and social justice and arts and anti-racism are really, where ArtPride is really operating at that intersection. And so we as an organization have a big commitment to the future of the organization, to evolving our organization, to reaching out to historically excluded communities, and to righting the wrongs of our organization by repairing and building really strong relationships and being able to build an organization, an ArtPride, a membership, a staff, a board that is representative of this beautiful state. And so I'm just really humbled and glad that I get to be part of a big team of board and staff and volunteers and consultants that are helping to move the organization in this new direction. And I think it's only going to continue to add to ArtPride's success.
Well, that's great that you're growing it and looking to grow it with non-traditional parties too, to become part of ArtPride. And I'm sure knowing you'll figure out a way to get everybody on the bus and driving it in the right direction.
Absolutely, we'll try.
So I think one of the things I want to ask you also is that you mentioned it a little bit. We still get back to the issue of safety, right? And how can those that are ready to venture out or have already, keep up to date? You mentioned, going to the, jerseyarts.com. How can they keep up to date on other arts and, cultural events around the state? Yes, they can go to, jerseyarts.com, but how about locally? I mean, because a lot of times not everything is, advertised.
Absolutely. So a couple of things. One of the things is when you go to jerseyarts.com, you should sign up to be a free jerseyarts.com member.
It's free.
It's free. It's free.
Sign.
I mean, how hard is that, right? And we'll send the information to you. I mean, that's part of what we do.
Just
you
sign
just
up?
sit there, and we'll send the email blast out.
Okay.
One of the email blasts we send out on a regular basis is New and Now.
Okay.
And so part of what we're doing, part of what our team is doing, is actually going out there and searching for those content, searching for the events. And we actually have a network of Jersey arts marketers around the state, representing over 300 arts organizations around the state.
Right.
And we're reaching out to them. We're saying, what do you got going on? And we're including them in, and we're picking events to highlight and giving you a mix, so that if you're in South Jersey, you're in North Jersey, you're in Central Jersey, because we know they all exist.
Right, they all do.
Right? That you're getting those events. So wherever you are from a local perspective, we're doing our best to cultivate those, and we're making sure we have membership from all of those places. So to me, go there, sign up, and be a member. Follow us on social media and that. And then the other part of that is, I really encourage people to check out. I'll give another website, but you can find it on jerseyarts.com. But there's a Jersey Arts Road Trip, which really highlights the cultural destinations around the state.
Okay.
So, you might be familiar with wherever you're from. We are very close right now to the town of Princeton, certainly a cultural destination. But you might not know that much about, other parts in the state. You might not know much about, the Monmouth County area, or about Montclair, or Newark. So I really encourage folks to go there and to learn more. And then you get to that sort of hyper-local information. And if you're looking for that local information on jerseyarts.com, you can find that local entity, whether it's, I'm thinking here again, Princeton Arts Council, West Windsor Arts Council. connect with them, sign up for their email list too. That's a big part of what ArtPride does, is be a connector, not just for the arts organizations and their needs too, but for the individual patrons that are coming out as well.
Okay. One of the things that I like to ask everybody, Adam, all my guests, is I like to ask them about who served as a role model, for them, and maybe you could talk a little bit about someone that's been a role model for you growing up, whether professionally or personally, that made a significant impact in your life, and someone who really was who gave you guidance along the way, or just someone that you really leaned on or leaned toward and found a connection with.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm trying to think of a good one. I want as supportive of as my parents are, I'll try to skip my parents. Actually, I was very lucky early on in my career to work for now Congresswoman Shelley Pingree in the state of Maine. And this was when Congresswoman Pingree was running for senator, and I worked on her campaign, and unfortunately it wasn't a winning campaign.
Right.
But as a college kid who had lived a fairly sheltered life up to that point, to be able to work on a campaign, and I got to spend some time with her and to have some conversations with her about the way the real world works, and to really think about what I cared about and what I wanted to put my time and energy to. And to this day, I still, follow her, on social media. I get to connect with her once in a while because she has become one of the chairs of the Congressional Arts Caucus. So when we do get to go to DC, it's been a couple years now to do our advocacy. She has been someone I've been able to keep in touch with, and has been someone who, from an approach to the world, an approach to selfless civil service, has really been a role model for me. That's definitely someone. But I'd also be remiss if I said that, part of what drives me as an individual is my faith from growing up. So, I'm born and raised Jewish, and I'm a practicing Jew. And one of the things we learn in our religion, as we learn in many religions, is tikkun olam, which is repairing the world. And that is our job to make this world a better place for the next generation. And that is absolutely a guiding principle for me. So I think even more than Shelley or my mom and my dad or my wife, that principle of spending my life trying to make the world a better place for my kids and their kids and the next generation, and trying to wake up every day and live to that ideal is something that I really strive for.
Well, that's a great thing. I know one of the things we want to talk to as we get closer to the end here is that I know that a lot of people will say, how can I volunteer? ArtPride sounds like a great organization to volunteer with. How do they get in touch with you? How do they find out about ArtPride? If somebody wants to volunteer, how do they do it?
You can hit up Google ArtPride. We're the only ArtPride New Jersey out there. So you'll find artpridenj.org, which is harder to remember than Googling ArtPride NJ, to find us. And sure, we need volunteers from time to time, but I'd actually encourage anyone who's really interested in volunteering in the arts to find their local arts organization that they care about, to find that local dance group, to find that non-equity theater or the equity theater performing arts center that they're interested in, and to really get involved on that local level. And I think that they'll find it to be a rewarding experience. And for us, that's what it's all about. It's about raising, that tide for all boats. It's about being able to make sure that the resources, the connections, and the support's there for every arts organization, for every arts patron, for every student, for all the citizens of the state of New Jersey, all the residents of the state of New Jersey, to be able to show that support for them and make sure that the arts are part of their lives.
Well, Adam Perle, thank you so much for coming on the show tonight. It's great having you here again, and it's great hearing about the great work that you're doing. And as the saying goes, not only keep up the good work, but keep expanding it and becoming more inclusive and getting everybody on the bus, and making sure everybody feels safe and healthy enough to go back and get into the cultural arts and go attend some events.
Absolutely, and we look forward to seeing your patrons at jerseyarts.com. Thanks for having me, Lou.
It's always a great pleasure having you, and thank you very much for watching. I'm Lou Goldstein. We'll see you next week on another edition of Focus On. Until that time, stay active, stay healthy, and stay good. Have a good night.
Every day, don't say, born to play. Every day, every day.